assist this effort, which is historic in Michigan, by encouraging people to get further involved. We're planning some events for people to come together and help get out the vote, get people to register to vote. There's no question that this has been long overdue. It's an interesting election year in terms of the anticipated turnout and what's going to happen. I think it's never too late to get involved if you haven't been, or at least spread the word of why it is so important this year to not just vote, but vote in favor of legalizing marijuana. And there's probably a lot of people that are, well, we know there's a lot of people that are antagonistic to this proposal, and it's unfortunate. And I invite them to call in tonight if they want to and offer up some debate if anyone's listening. But I'm going to address that too, and we're hopefully as a group we can address some of the fallacies in the opposition's debate strategy, some of the things that were mentioned last night, and we'll go through that. All right, so with that being said, let me turn the attention now to Dr. Bogner. For those that don't know, he's currently left the practice of OBGYN, where he was practicing at Beaumont Hospital.
I heard good things.
You know, people say got a Beaumont doctor. Well, he was a Beaumont
coming from you. Thank you.
Beaumont doctor. And now he works over at the Brighton Recovery Center in Brighton, Michigan, Livingston County.
Oxford Recovery Center.
Oxford Recovery Center.
Very different.
Yes.
Very, very different.
That is true, and I apologize.
Both kind of English themes, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in northern Oakland County, Oxford?
Oxford and Livingston County.
Okay.
Oxford is the
It's in
name.
Brighton.
It's in Brighton, yeah. And then we have one clinic in Troy, Oakland County.
And just on a side note, and we're not here to look personally advertise, but if you want to tell us, we got the location in.
It's in Brighton, Michigan. We have a new facility there. It's 30,000 square feet. It's a utopia of healing, really. We offer hyperbaric oxygen therapies. We have medical consultations. We have an ABA program. We have creative arts programs for these autistic children. We have nutrition coaching and neurofeedback. So we offer everything under one roof with laboratory testing and truly a holistic approach to healing. So
describe some of the other treatments that you mentioned. You've got hyperbolic chamber, is that right?
Hyperbaric, yeah.
What does that mean, and what does it do?
Well, it's an enclosed chamber. It's surrounded by glass, 1.5-inch glass. And what we do is we place these patients in there. We pump in 300 liters of oxygen every minute. And then we apply pressure, because the pressure will cause the oxygen to diffuse into your tissues and reach more cells for energy production and ultimately DNA activation. And so hyperbaric oxygen is wonderful. It's anti-inflammatory. It creates new stem cells. It stimulates your bone marrow to make your own stem cells. It basically regrows tissue. And so we want to direct that process with correct genetic polishing, so to say, because we look at genetics, we look at genetic mutations, and then we try to supplement those genes that are affected to help you detoxify and for healthy neurotransmission. And so we connect all these therapies and have really incredible results.
In addition to that one chamber you're speaking of, what are the other ones that are unique to this field of therapy and treatment?
What's that?
Was there another specific treatment other than this chamber you're talking about? I know you.
We have neurofeedback, which is basically a live EKG where we take a look at the brain synaptic plasticity, where that emits certain impulses, and we measure that on a live screen, and we can see how the brain communicates with different areas, like the frontal cortex with your prefrontal cortex, and then see if there's any blockages of, people have anxieties, depression, and oftentimes it's because of these synaptic blocks. And with neurofeedback, we can direct and unleash those potentials in the brain where the blockage is. And it's an incredible technology, really. And
once identified those things, is there medications that you can offer to kind of trigger those areas that are?
No, it actually works with a sound feedback. So there's a very pleasant sound that your brain gets pleasure from, and then certain areas in the brain start to connect. But you don't give the full sound. You actually just tease the brain, and that creates that drive to connect to the other area of the brain. And it's actually covered by insurance for a lot of conditions. So that's one of the things we offer. But the biggest thing really is really getting deep into the genetics, and then stimulate those genes with the correct nutritional approach.
When you talk about the sound, you talk about like delta waves and alpha, beta waves and things like that. Is it that triggers the connectivity?
Yes.
Okay.
And you can see that beautifully graphically represented on the software that comes with it.
Fascinating. All right. What about the dealing with the nutritional things? People are always interested in. I mean, some people should be more, but nutrition plays a large part. I know you believe, and I agree with you. But make the case of why that is. That how important nutrition is for health. And more specifically, when you identify some genetic issues, what are the things that you're finding are most helpful for how people will change their diet? Give some examples.
All right. Well, I'll give you an example of insanity, which it was called back until I think the 70s, which is now better known as schizophrenia, which is a condition of literally late onset adulthood. You're losing your mind. And what they have found is that the problem of this condition of insanity, for example, is a toxic compound in the brain called adrenochrome, which is oxidized epinephrine. And they genetically cannot break that down any further, so it accumulates in the brain and creates this incredible insanity, dopamine surges, and just neurotransmitter dysregulation. And so they have found that because they cannot genetically break down the adrenaline, that by just changing the diet of that patient, from eliminating sugar from their diet, you basically have almost a reversal of symptoms. And the reason for that is that if you eat a high carbohydrate diet, high sugar diet, those are simple sugars. Your body burns through them very fast. But while the blood sugar rises, your body also secretes insulin, and insulin, ultimately lowers your blood sugar. You have actually low blood sugar, and that's a problem because when you have low blood sugar, your body produces more adrenaline. And again, this adrenaline, your body in those patients it cannot be broken down, so it's just again toxic to the brain and keeps the insanity going. And that's just an extreme example of schizophrenia, but it goes along with all the sub-symptoms, the sub-conditions that are more mild, like anxiety or depression, and people just not feeling well. So, and that's why nutrition is so important, not just for mental health, but as you know, it's very toxic. There's 100,000 food chemicals that are registered with the EPA. And only 1 in 4 of those has ever had the proper human studies. So we don't even know what we're eating, how toxic it is to our body, how slowly disease starts happening because of those things. So diet is everything. Even if you eat vegetables nowadays, you have to be, we have a discussion about that. They come from thousands of miles away. You don't know if they contain all the nutrients that they claim they have, folate. And so it's nutrition is everything, and you are what you eat, literally.
So what can you tell from the genetic, reading the genetics, and what is a common, medical advice that you would give in terms of what to do, how to eat, and et cetera?
I would say that you should have a nutritional analysis to see if you're lacking any. It depends on if you have a problem. If you have chronic headaches, or if you have PMS, heavy periods, if you have chronic anxiety, if you snap at your kids too quick, those are all problems that people have. People that cannot think clear, people that have a bad memory all of a sudden, they have, chronic arthritis. You have to genetically see if you have problems with your genetics, and then you have to see if you have nutritional deficiencies. And sometimes you have, even if you take folic acid, for example, the active ingredient, folate is used in 200 chemical processes in your body. But if you have a genetic problem to break down folic acid, which is synthetic and not biologically active, if you have a problem breaking that down, then you don't have folate. You're missing a vitamin that's used in 200 chemical processes. And so that creates deficiencies, inflammation, inabilities to detoxify, inability to, regulate your neurotransmitters, which causes anxiety and depression and, anger, aggressions, insanity. And so the first thing is identify the problem. What is your problem? And then check to see if you're toxic, check your genetics, and then combine all those things and find what you're deficient in and how to pull the toxins out. And that's when you usually start feeling better.
All right, fascinating. So let's talk about this other topic. I know you've, in your practice now, unlike the more traditional OBGYN practice involving delivering babies and taking care of mamas, you find yourself probably, I'm curious, now that you're focused on these alternatives to treatment, what kind of patients are you seeing? Do you find yourself, I know it was, wanting to use cannabis as a method to treat some of these conditions. Who are the patients you're seeing? Do you find, since the added conditions to the registry, which include autism, that you're finding a lot of autistic patients coming in? I guess that's my question. Has there been an increase in patients that you're seeing that are autistic that are seeking cannabis as a treatment?
Oh, absolutely. I love autism. I love the research about it. I have an autistic child, as you know. So that's my passion. I've been researching for the last 10 years. So yes, I love to see those patients. I love to help them. We help them. We have incredible results, even with cannabis. I mean, it changes the whole family, really. And, it's a beautiful thing to witness ever since we have made this change in Michigan in July 24, I think it was. So it really changes lives, and I want to thank you for that, for working so hard and diligently. A lot of people in this room. So I can see it. So, yeah, that's what I see, autism. But a lot of mental illness, schizophrenia, depression. I see a lot of cancer patients with cancer that refuse chemotherapy and radiation therapy. They want just alternative therapies because, people read. People can now actually access so much information, so they can, listen to their doctor, of course, what they should, but they do their own research and they see the success rate of those things, of chemotherapy and all that. And so people are seeking out more alternative therapies. I mean, what does chemotherapy cure? I'm not saying you shouldn't get chemotherapy, but give me the numbers. It doesn't look good. I don't know many people who, survive long, hardcore cancer. Eventually it's going to take you. So, but, so I see cancer patients and, Parkinson's as well. We have great success with that. And autoimmune diseases, just no more pregnancy. That's something in my past. I love to deliver babies and do surgery, but not anymore.
So tell me this: what are the kind of so you're seeing those kind of patients? Are you getting positive results from of the pediatric patients that are using cannabis? And if so, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah.
How many patients do you think? Without I don't want to disclose anything that you shouldn't. But what would you say the you think you have 50, 100, 200 pediatric patients that are. What do we know the numbers, Jim? What's the number statistically?
The state has not categorically released those numbers in quite a while. I can tell you that
at some point it was what?
250
total in the state,
Uh-huh.
like in 2012 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, look, it still takes two physicians to, even if they have a qualifying condition, to sign off on this. Properly evaluate the child, talk to the families, talk about the risks, talk about follow-up, and do it the right way. And people have great success with it if they do it correctly. And the feedback is incredible. I mean, I read letters that came back from schools that reported great improvements. I've listened to the parents. The whole family is relieved. People can go back to work. I have patients that, one of the problems is these children have the medical cannabis card and they have relief, but then, parents have to work and the child has to go to school. And, in Michigan, parents run into big problems with using the medicine that was prescribed for and, under Michigan law are legal to have. that medicine. Unfortunately, the schools don't recognize that and say that it's a drug-free zone and they cannot have this medication administered in school. So I do see parents that unfortunately have to leave work to pick up their child because without some of for example cannabis, they oftentimes become violent. Not that that is a side effect, but that is why they take the medicine in the first place, for example, for aggressive behaviors. And if the school cannot then handle